In 1932, a doctor in California started feeding 900 cats two different diets. Half got raw, whole food. Half got cooked, processed food. He ran it for 10 years, 4 generations. By the 3rd generation, the processed food cats couldn't reproduce. By the 4th, there was no 4th. The line went extinct. Now here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. We introduced processed food at scale 3 generations ago. We are living in the 3rd generation. Here's everything he discovered. His name was Dr. Francis Pottenger Jr., a physician from Monrovia, California. He wasn't trying to prove anything about diet. He ran a clinic, and he was using cats to study the adrenal glands. To do that, he was feeding them cooked meat scraps. But he kept running into a problem. His cats were dying on the operating table. They were weak, sickly. They didn't recover from surgery. Then he noticed something. When the clinic got busy and ran low on cooked meat, he started feeding some cats raw scraps from a local meatpacking plant instead. And those cats were different, stronger, more energetic. They survived surgery at far higher rates. It wasn't subtle, it was obvious. So Pottenger did what almost no one does. He stopped, and he asked, what if it's the food? He designed one of the most disturbing nutrition experiments in history. 900 cats, 10 years, 4 generations. One single variable. Raw food versus cooked and processed food. Same air, same sunlight, same pens, same living conditions. The only thing that changed was what went in the bowl. The raw group got raw meat, raw milk, and cod liver oil. The processed group got cooked meat and pasteurized milk. That's it. That's the whole difference. And then he just watched, generation after generation, and he documented everything. What he found is so consistent, so brutal, that the establishment spent decades pretending it didn't happen. Let's start with the good news. The raw food cats. Every single generation came out perfect. Strong, broad bones, wide, well-formed jaws, shiny coats, no parasites, no disease. They reproduced easily. They were calm, gentle, predictable. Generation 1, Generation 2, 3, 4, 0 decline, none. Remember that, because the contrast is about to get dark. Generation 1. The cooked food cats started to break down almost immediately. Allergies appeared, skin diseases increased, their bones began to soften, and their behavior changed. They became more irritable, harder to handle. Generation 2. This is where it gets structural. Their jaws started to narrow, their teeth crowded together and grew in crooked. Their organs didn't develop properly. The allergy rate exploded, from around 5% in normal cats to over 90%. These cats weren't just sick, they were being physically reshaped by what they ate. Generation 3. This is the finding that stops people cold. The 3rd generation cats developed disease at the beginning of their lives, not the end. Many died before they were 6 months old. The females suffered miscarriages, infertility, and high infant mortality. The males were largely infertile. The few kittens that survived were weak and deformed. And then there was no 4th generation. The line simply ended. Not from a virus, not from a genetic mutation, not from a predator, from food. 4 generations of raw food cats, perfectly healthy. 4 generations of processed food cats, extinction. Now here's the detail almost everyone misses, and it's the one that should genuinely unsettle you. Pottenger grew plants in the pens. The soil was fertilized by the cat's own waste. In the raw food pens, plants grew tall and thriving, strong stems, full leaves. In the processed food pens, only weeds. The plants couldn't grow properly in soil fertilized by nutritionally bankrupt animals. Think about what that means. The damage wasn't contained inside the cats. It extended to everything their biology touched, right down to the soil. Their waste couldn't even support a plant. That is how deep the nutritional collapse ran. Now, Pottenger was careful. He said he would not directly correlate his cat findings to humans. But then he added one line. He said the similarity is so obvious that parallel pictures will suggest themselves. So let's let them suggest themselves. Narrowing jaws and crowded teeth. Around 4 million American children now wear braces, a number that's roughly doubled since the 1980s. Sperm counts in Western men have dropped more than 50% since 1973. Fertility clinics have never been busier. Allergies and autoimmune disease are at record levels. Chronic disease in children is rising every single decade. We rolled out processed food at scale in the middle of the 20th century. That was roughly 3 generations ago. Pottenger's third generation couldn't reproduce. We are the third generation. I'm not telling you we're going extinct. I'm telling you the pattern he documented in cats is showing up in us, and almost nobody is connecting the dots. When Pottenger published this in 1942, the scientific establishment laughed. The idea that food damage could be passed from one generation to the next, they called it impossible. Genes were fixed. Destiny was written at birth. Then modern science caught up. It's called epigenetics. We now know that diet, stress, and environmental toxins can change how your genes are expressed, without changing the DNA code itself. And here's the part that matters. Those changes can be inherited. A mother's nutrition during pregnancy shapes her child's gene expression. That child's early nutrition shapes the next generation. What you eat doesn't just affect you. It echoes into your children and your grandchildren. Pottenger watched it happen in cats in 1942. Science confirmed the mechanism about 70 years later. He wasn't wrong. He was early. Now here's the hope, because there is some. Pottenger also took degenerated cats and put them back on raw, whole food. They recovered. The deformities faded. Health returned. But it wasn't instant. It took about 4 generations of clean, whole food to undo the damage from the processed diet. Which means every meal you eat today is a vote, not just for your health, but for people who don't exist yet. You will never see most of the effects, but they will feel them. So here's what I'd ask. If this made you rethink what's in your kitchen, share it with one person who's planning to have kids. That's who needs it most. And if you want the evidence-based protocols and the suppressed research the food industry would rather you never read, that's exactly what we send in our free newsletter. Over 40,000 people already get it. The link's in the description. Real health starts with real food. It always has. Pottenger proved that 90 years ago. We just stopped listening.